Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Pain-Free Posture. Grab 2 blocks and a strap, and
That's why I can't do this at home. I don't have 2 blocks at home.
and your mat, and let's get started. Okay. So today we're going to start with opening up our upper back, and then we're going to work on hips and knees in a way that is taking the knee over the toes and play with some of this new motion. I happen to find a guy on Instagram that's the knees over toes guy, if you're wanting to look at him, and he's a knee rehab guy, and he's really taking a bunch of what we understand and flipping it over. And I think some of what he's doing is pretty cool, so let's check it out.
Does that mean we have to put our toes over our knees instead of knees over toes if he's flipping it around?
Yeah, exactly. All right, so go ahead and start. If you have a wall, go to the wall. Line up your load joints, ears over shoulders, over rib cage, over hips, over knees, over ankles. And just standing there, take a couple deep breaths. And allow your rib cage to be separate from your belly. So as you fill in the rib cage, make a big, deep, full breath in and exhale completely. Full breath in. Exhale. 3 more. Full breath in. Exhale. Squeeze your diaphragm, rib cage, everything in. Inhale. And exhale. Good. And notice on the wall how your shoulders are. Are they even on the wall, or do you feel one shoulder blade differently than the other? And
I'm going to text you.
Notice, is there an asymmetry?
Oh, I forgot, Susie. I'm supposed to go at 7:30.
1 second.
To my colleague's concert tonight.
There we go. Okay. From there, let's go after shoulder blades a little bit. So just take your shoulder blades into a shoulder squeeze, pinch the shoulder blades in toward your spine and release. Squeeze, release. And begin to open up some thoracic back area. Notice that the rib cage stays relatively still as the shoulder blades squeeze toward the spine in that slightly down and back motion. And if you notice that your knees are locked, you may want to put a micro bend in your knees and notice how maybe that turns on some outer hip muscles. Good. And then from there, go into rotator cuff, so shoulder blades stay gently down and back, and rotate your arms into external humeral rotation. And see if you can get the arm bone to rotate in the socket without the shoulder blade really going anywhere. Shoulder blades stay stable while that arm bone does that motion. Finding the rotator cuff, and you can press your fingernails gently into the wall. That will activate your mid-trap area. Some of us have one mid-trap that works really well, and maybe based on the position of how forward or tilted one shoulder is, it has a harder time activating on that other side. So take it out, press, and release. Notice your breath. Can you still take full breaths in the rib cage while you hold all of that stable? Excellent. Now bring your arms up. Rotate the arms back. So as you went up like this, the shoulder blade does have to rotate with the arm bone, so it has to come out a little bit. And then let the arm bone rotate up, and you can let it come down. Go ahead and let the shoulders just rise for a moment. Let them come all the way up towards your neck, so the whole thing gets to move as a unit, shoulder blades and arm bone. Sliding down your back, coming up off your back. And then go into arm bone movement, stabilize the shoulder blade, holding them gently, and just take the arm bone in as far as it will go. It may not go as far, but separate arm bone movement from shoulder blade. And notice when that shoulder blade wants to lift, where are the muscles that you can find to hold that more stable? And release. Take it into a shoulder roll, up and back and around. And 10 times forward, up and forward and around. Backwards one more time. All right, come back to the wall. We're gonna move into ankles. I want you to bring your feet maybe a foot forward from the wall. We're gonna find your anterior tib muscle, anterior tibialis. So I want you to rest your body against the wall and then hold your toes up, pull them all the way up, and then let them go down again. So all the way up, all the way down. Ten more. Awesome. And then come back up. Let's use the wall and just do some stabilization. So go one elbow to the wall on the side and then walk your body away from the wall and just stabilize. Split your feet, so put that top foot forward. And just first feel shoulder into shoulder blade, stabilizing through the oblique and the transverse abdominis just because you're out of balance on that side. And then switch, so rotate on your toes, come into both elbows on the wall. And then turn your heels again all the way over to that other side. Now, as you do that, I want you to think of your hips and shoulders like stuck, like there's a board attached to the shoulders and the hips, so that as you rotate, that is rotating together. Think of the arm taking the hip with it, so that's going together, and then spin to that other side. Yeah, okay. This whole thing as a unit, completely together, and then spin to the other side. Good. The more stable you can keep the shoulders and the pelvis, the more stability you have in your back. We build endurance into those spinal muscles. Again, back to the center, rotate to that other side. Awesome. One more. Excellent. Come down onto your hands and knees, cats and dogs. Start to think of segmental control in your cat and dog today. So hands down on the floor, tilt your tailbone up, let the low back move into extension. If you have pain in any of the places, then stay out of the end range motion. So stay in pain-free motion, all the way down, bring your head up. Make sure that your head comes up so that you're flossing your nerves a little bit. In that, by pulling the head up, you're pulling the nerves through the spine, and then head down, then neck, mid-back, all the way, control to the low back. Then tailbone back up, moving through, and up. Head up and chin down. Shoulder blades come wide and off your back, middle back goes up, turn it down, and again. And come back to standing. So now what I'd like you to do is take your block and put it forward on the floor, and then put your heel on your block. So let me explain this a little bit. If we're looking at squatting, your knees need to be able to go over your toes to let the angle of the shin be correct. Otherwise, if your ankles are too tight and the shin is more vertical, we get this big rounding in the back. And we know that this is really hard on the lumbar discs if the rounding is too big. So what we want is we're going to cheat the foot a little bit by taking the heel up, but then I want you to take a lunge where your knees are going to go over your toes, way over your toes. So yeah, I'm still seeing people straight up over their ankle. So literally past. Yep, not with your upper body. Your upper body can stay vertical, but your knees go past. And then I want you to press back up to standing. Good. Then again, down and back up. Good, so start to work that. And it will get tired. You'll feel the muscles around the knee. Mine is a little shaky once I get into that position. Aaron, look forward. Or look sideways in your mirror. Take the knee way over the toes. Yeah, so your goal eventually would be knee to the floor.
No.
Okay, like we're talking way over.
Back knee. Back
Good,
knee, both
switch.
knees.
Back knee to the floor or front knee to the floor?
Front knee to the floor. Both knees to the floor.
Really?
Okay, switching sides, yep. Knee over toes, feel the muscles around that knee work, and then press back. Forward, and press back. Good. Now, imagine you're walking up a hill backwards. So I want you to take a step back like this. So again, now we're working the back knee. So back heel down, bringing the back knee down toward the floor. And then I just want you to push backwards. And then take that step forward again. And like you're walking backward up a hill, up, good. Down. Let the heel root down when you do that. So don't just lift that heel way up. Let the heel root down. Bend the back knee a lot, and then press back. Down. Root that heel, push. So the calf is stretching, the ankle flexibility is being worked. Good, switch sides. Feel how far you can go. This is almost our short foot position, right? And then press. Down. Drop that knee as far as you can. Do you have one that the knee doesn't bend as far as the other? Like that heel can't stay down, or the calf is tighter? Good, take it into short foot now. Now into that front foot, so that back knee is bent as much as it can be. Shoulders just relaxing. With the front toes, lift and press your front toes down into the floor. Make sure there's at least 6 inches between your feet. And bend as much into that back foot as possible. Heel on the ground, but look at your upper body. Make sure your shoulders are over your hips. Shoulders are relaxed. Good, bend as much as possible. Where's the end range? So you're like hanging out on that lengthened back calf. Front. And feel this whole outer hip, maybe hamstring on that front foot, begin to activate. Switch. So some people say that little kids have a perfect squat, and that really early on in this country we start to use chairs, and we begin to change the amount of ankle flexion that is required for that squat by sitting in chairs all the time. And that ultimately changes how far the shin can go forward, how the position of the hip sits in the hip socket, and how much rounding our back has to take. Lift and press your toes, front toes down, hanging into that back calf, knees over toes as much as it'll go. Awesome. Now grab your block. Put your heels on your block. We're going to do a squat. And just go to the level that your body will let you. Let your knees go over your toes and come down to the level that's pain-free for you. Yep, knees over toes, way over. So we're cheating that ankle right now to allow the hip to do that action. And then press it back up. Good, again. Come down, maybe that's right here for you, that's fine. Keep your back in a good position. So as soon as you feel that big wink happening, let's stay out of it. Keep your back in a safe position for that squat today. And notice where that is for you. You can even put your hands on your back and go, okay, here's where I can maintain that arch up right there. That's for me about where my tailbone wants to start going down. So for right there, that's my squat position. I'm going to stand back up. Knees over toes, holding that position. There, I can feel all my quads firing around my knees. Can I put more arch in my back, lengthen my hamstrings more, and stand back up again? Knees over toes, and press it back up. Who's got quads? Who feels those quads in that position? You feel right around that knee? Yeah? Good. And back up. Awesome. What'd you say?
So I feel it if you're asking.
Yeah, great. All right, take that away. Come back to your hands and knees. Move that hip around again. So now just move fluidly, however you want. 8 more. Okay, one more. Grab your block, put it forward on the floor, put your toes down, and then come into a kneeling groin stretch, letting your knee go as far over those toes as possible. That's going to be a big lengthened stretch on the back. Good. Now for some of us, this is cool, I just learned this. Some of us have an anatomical linkage through the fascia from the psoas up through the body into the arm. So take your arm up, flex the wrist back, and move that arm like a windshield wiper. And notice if you feel a connection into that back hip. Let the whole rib go up, let the shoulder really go up. And notice if you feel a linkage through the fascia. Some of us have it, some of us don't.
Why?
I don't know.
Whatever it is, Kathy, you've got it.
Switch sides.
I don't want it.
Okay, foot up on your block, knee over your toes, back leg back. Open that up. Stay in pain-free movement. So if you start to get into a depth that feels painful, come out of it a little bit. And then take that arm up, check for you. Rib cage can go up, arm can go up. Flex the wrist back so that like you're holding a ball that's going up to the ceiling. And then rotate that arm. And maybe your butt muscles start to take that leg behind you. As the psoas lets go, we get the glutes to turn on and we get hip extension with that glute.
New version of the Queen.
New version of Queen Wave. There you go. Awesome. Come back down onto your hands and knees. Let's do some full range of motion in the shoulders. So arm comes up, take it around, let the arm turn and back. Then from there, lead with the pinky, lifting that arm up and all the way around, like a shoulder car. All the way up, turn, back and around, and up. This 3-point horse stance, whenever we come into that, we have core engagement, abdominal engagement, some stability happening. So notice if it's challenging for you to be there. Switch sides. Hold that point stance. Bring the arm up, take it back and around. Up, back, around. more. Good, into spinal stability, hand, leg, opposite lift. Hold the fist, push your heel, good activation all the way through your body. And then let's do squares with the arm and leg, 6-inch squares. Up, out, down, around.
Do one at a time.
Drain.
Good, and then switch.
Imagine you're doing squares.
Hand in a fist, squeeze that fist, push the heel back, hold that stability, up, out, down and around. And release. All right, come into a plank on your elbows. Actually, no, come into a plank on your hands. Feet slightly separated, hip width apart. And then test this. We could use this for a diagnostic as well, but hold that and then see if you can take a hand to the elbow without a big shift in this part of your back. So,
Hand to the elbow.
hand to your other elbow. And notice if you have, I have one side for sure where my hips don't want to stay level. See how it feels in your body. Yeah, Julie, see if you can keep your hips a little more level. And bring yours down just a touch more. Put a tiny bit more arch in your back. Just a tiny, low back. No, other way, yeah. Yep.
This way.
Ah.
Flatten it. Arch it.
What?
Flatten or arch it?
He needed to slightly arch. Awesome. Good. Come on down. Was that challenging?
Yes.
Cool. Okay, onto your back. Let's move into some hip stuff. So, shoulders gently rolled down and back, keep that stable. Some activation in the abdominals, pull the right leg in. And then let your knee drop out to the side and keep your body as stable as possible. See how far that knee can drop wide. And if you have good stability in the trunk and in the spine, maybe that hip will allow you to drop a little bit more and then bring it up. Back to neutral and then out. And up. And out. And up. And out. Head of the femur, being able to stabilize in that hip socket while everything else is stable. Up. And out. Switch. Stabilize ribs and ASIS hip bones, and then let that hip drop. And notice you may also have an asymmetry that makes this want to rotate more, or an instability that makes one side be able to stabilize less well. If you can keep your hands on your pelvis and your ribs, that'll help your mind clue into what's happening. Drop that knee wide. Bring it back up. Again. And up. 3 more. Awesome. Both feet on the floor. Knees bent and hands underneath your low back. Let's extend one leg out so that your pelvis can't tip backwards, keeping that leg out. Now, we're gonna find the deep neck flexors, but I want you to think of this coming up from your sternum, and you're gonna imagine that there's a piece of paper under your elbows so they don't get to press down into the floor. So, piece of paper, gently lift the elbows up off the floor, and then use your sternum to curl your head up off the floor. So the sternum moves down. You're gonna feel upper body move into that and find some stability in the trunk. Hold that up there without letting your head really change position, and then lower back down. We're gonna hold that again for 10 seconds. So sternum right here lifts towards your belly button. Low back doesn't really change. Elbows gently off the floor. Head in good alignment. Find deep neck flexors. This was an interesting cue. Deep neck flexors don't really change the position of the head. They just stabilize. And the other one, sternocleidomastoid, this outer one, will take over if those deep neck flexors aren't really doing their job. Come on down. Again. Right here, sternum down. Elbows lift, hold. Hold and breathe. And release. Switch your legs. Same thing. Stabilize. Sternum lifts, elbows up, hold. Notice the head position.
Is this the longest core?
Muscle.
Yeah.
Yeah, and platysmus and stuff probably.
Okay.
Come down. Again. Lift. Come on down. Once more. Sternum lifts, elbows lift, hold, breathe. And release. Nice job. Bend both knees up. Interlace your fingers. Pull your arms over your head, touch the floor, and back up. All the way over. All the way up. As your arms go over, the shoulder blade has to rotate out toward the armpit and kind of push into that mid and upper back. We get some thoracic extension there. And then let's go into a tricep stretch. So take your right hand and touch underneath the shoulder, or like reach toward the shoulder blade. And then take the left hand, make a square over your head, and let that shoulder blade just move down your back until you get that arm as far up as you can. That's gonna work that shoulder blade, that lumbar erector, into that thoracic extension. I want you to take some deep breaths, again, separating the belly from the rib cage. So the belly can even feel like it draws in a bit here. Or if I were to poke my fingers into your belly, that you're pressing out. Let's take a deep breath in and imagine you're breathing out through a straw. So pursed lips. So we get transverse abdominals and oblique activation a little bit in this lengthened position with this thoracic extension. Full breath, expanding the rib cage. Exhale, exhale the rest of it out like you're blowing through a small straw. One more time. Big full inhale, exhale. Then the last bit through the straw. All the way out. And release that arm. Switch sides, left hand, trying to touch the left shoulder blade, making the square over your head with the right. Opening up that tricep, letting the shoulder blade gently move down the back. And then move to your breathing again. Full breath in. Exhale. Pursed lip breath, squeeze the rest of the air out. Again. Big full breath, wide rib cage. Exhale. Then through the straw. All the way, all the way, all the way out. One more. And release that arm. Roll to your side. And come into a sleeper stretch. Bring your chin to your shoulder, and then this top hand, gently bring that top hand onto your wrist. Hold the shoulder down with your chin, and then do that internal rotation. If there's tightness in that shoulder, it can unhook that and let you gain a little more internal rotation. Big breaths. And release. Hold your hand under your head. While we're here, let's get some clam shells in. So feet together, knees lifting. Find those external rotators. They come across the back of the hip like this to the femur, and they're pulling that femur up. Keep your pelvis stable as you do that. Lift and lower. Getting clicks and pops in my hip today. Okay, now hold it up there. Keep it up. Get it a little bit higher. Find those muscles in the back of that hip. Find those deep rotators. A little higher. A little higher. And then imagine someone just put a brick on your knee and resist slowly. So you're in an eccentric demand as those muscles stay working and lengthened. Awesome. Switch side. Sleeper stretch first. Arms straight out from your shoulder, bend your hand, and then take your chin, put it on your shoulder, and let that arm rotate in. How does this side compare to the other side? Me too. Big breaths. Now that could be different if you have a labral tear in the shoulder, or if you have a rotator cuff tear in one of those rotator muscles. This might be restricted because the rotator cuff doesn't hold the head of the humerus in the shoulder as well as it needs to, or the labrum is no longer stabilizing the head of the shoulder in that joint. So the rest of the musculature can tighten
because of the lack of that stability. It's trying to add stability. And we wanna tell that arm bone that it's got enough stability to be able to have that full rotation. Good. And then clam shells. Go ahead and put that hand under the shoulder. Bend the knees so that they're at about a 45-degree angle. Let's do 20 lifts. Again, these back of the hip muscles, rolling that up, everything else stable. $18, $19, $20, hold it up there, keep it there. Where are those muscles on the outside of that hip that are holding that up there? 10 more seconds. Everybody got them? Are they tired? Okay, then imagine somebody just put a brick on your knee and you have to resist that slowly as you lower that knee down. Excellent. Onto your hands and knees once more. Round and arch, cats and dogs. Does that feel like you have more control? You could do a segmental one and just notice. Do you have better access or better symmetry? From the hips all the way. Into the shoulders. Maybe yes, maybe no, what do you think? Okay, grab both your blocks. Let's do a little bit of hamstring work here. So, blocks, back, behind you.
But you're up on your toes.
Up on your toes. And then you're just gonna push your hips up a little higher. So lengthening through the belly, through the quads, and then come back down again. Press and release. Press, release. Press, release. Press, release. Can you feel your glutes as you get to the top of that? Can you get all the way into hip extension? Excellent. Release, and then onto your stomach. Curl one leg in, all the way, and release it back down. All the way up, all the way down. Let your forehead relax, let your shoulders relax.
Cold over there.
Switch. Full hamstring curl, release. both together, 10 more, all the way up. And just notice, can you get that without too much rotation at the pelvis? So there may be a little bit of lumbo-pelvic rhythm as we lengthen the muscles that cross the knee and the hip. That might pull a bit of an arch into the low back, but it shouldn't be too much. I want the quad to lengthen as your legs come up heels to butt. Excellent. One downward facing dog pose. Tuck your toes. Press up and back, link the whole thing together. Knees can stay bent if you want to. Full breath. Lift your tailbone, root your heels down. Can pedal that out. One more time, take your knees over your toes, work on that ankle flexibility. Feel how that moves all the way into the hip. And then cross your ankles, come into seated, grab both your blocks. Let's do one core press up or a few core press ups from here. So finding these muscles on the side of your body, these stabilizers, serratus. Both blocks on your sides. Lift your butt up off the floor. If you've got butt and feet off the floor, awesome. Hold it up there for a moment and then release. Press, hold, release. Again, press. Hold, release. Switch your legs just to do the other side. Press, hold, release. Press, big shrug. So anti-shrug really. Down with the shoulders. Lift, release. Awesome. Okay, take your meditation position. Go ahead and close your eyes and take a moment just to feel your breath. And see if you can show up into this moment right now. Release expectations and just observe what's right here, right now. What is the sensation in your body? What is the feeling of the breath? For these next 5 minutes, I want you to take anything that has to do with your personhood, so your name, your relationships, what you have to do today, what your expectations are for yourself, all of that stuff, anything that has to do with you as a person, and just allow that to drift into the background. Or I've said before, imagine that that's packed in a suitcase. Essentially, that's the ego. What makes you you, or your experience of what you say as the small self. And allow you to show up to the presence of your being. What does your very aliveness feel like? Expand your visual field.
even if your eyes are closed, and just notice what arises. If your mind needs something, you could just repeat a gentle om in your mind's eye. And just be right here, right now. If you notice a thought arises in this space, come back to the breath. Notice this space that you've gotten to. That's always here. It's always available. How do we attune to this space? Knowing that your personhood is waiting for you whenever you want to tune back into that aspect of yourself as well. The more we can tune into this part, the more choice we have, the more peace we have, the more joy we have. Take a deep breath. And go ahead and open your eyes. Good job. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you, Kyra.